In this video, we are talking with Edo from Pencil First Games about design development.
For Diverging Paths, which is the expansion that's in development, one of the fun things we did, which we took from Skull Hollow. So we're just going through a bunch of Pencil First games. But Skull Hollow, two-player Asa. Have you guys played Skull Hollow?
No, we haven't.
I don't know how much like super head-to-head games you like, but it's a two-player head-to-head game. But you're playing as a clan of foxes versus these gigantic guardians, and I really wanted you to just to like jump in and be able to play. And so in that game, we actually within the box created deck boxes that have all the pieces for each guy you can play with. So you just pull out the board. I'm gonna play as this guy. I grab the box here. You play as them here, and then we play. It's sort of Dice Throne sort of has a similar vibe to it. And it's fantastic. It really delivers that. So for Diverging Paths, basically there are shrines that you can add to Tori. So they're like four tile, 2x2 tiles, and you build them onto the map, and they all have special abilities. It's lots of fun, but you can sort of pick which one you want to add. And so in the new box, which we've already put together, it basically has 4 little tuck boxes, each with what you need for that shrine. So you're like, hey, let's play with these 2 shrines. You grab the 2 boxes, open them up, play, put them back. Let's just play with this one today. You just play. And then on the other side, we added 2 new characters, and they're in the other Gulf or whatever, the other area. And so, I think so it's not without expense. As a publisher, you have to decide, what kind of what your margins are going to be and what risks you're going to take. Pencil First Games is still fairly boutique and really focused on that sort of really high quality execution and feel, and we're not in Target, we're not printing 100,000 copies of any given game. So we've made the decision to say, no, I don't need to make little mini boxes within the bigger box, but like it's worth it because it means that players playing it can replay faster or enjoy it or just have that sort of like, it's equivalent of like buying a nice piece of tech and you like open the box, it comes in like an Apple product, or you're like, oh wow, the box is great. Like I love how this thing opens and the feel that you see this like felt. We should keep this and store things in it because this is such a nice little box, right?
That's true.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. Like for me, I like board games because they're tactical nature. I stare at screens all day, and I definitely like having those extra little chits that you can place down. But I do understand what you're saying in terms of the cost benefit analysis. The one thing, at least with the Pencil First games we've played as well, is like your quality is very high, like card quality, cardboard quality, rule book quality. So you're certainly not skimping there.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I sort of had the opportunity where our first game, Liftoff, not the expanded deluxe edition, but the original was I partnered with Panda Games, Panda Manufacturing, Panda. And they're sort of like the premier partner for really high quality games, and but with a little bit of a extra charge. Like they're more expensive, and I've been working with them and it was a really good relationship. But I was sort of looking at other options, and I don't remember how I got connected, but I started. Maybe they pitched it, maybe I don't remember. But I started working with Watts Games, who has printed every game we've done from. What was after Siblings Trouble and Gem Pact, which was like after Liftoff, all the way through to every game you've played of ours, and they've been great. And it turns out, like I didn't really know it at the time, but they do like a huge amount of Renegade games, but they also do a huge amount of Yellow games. And so Renegade certainly has high quality. Yellow is like super high quality at a mass market type of thing. And so they've just been great partners. They work with me to I can be picky, and so they spend a lot of time doing revisions and updates and getting it right, and then they're really good at however many you print, they're whatever quality. It's not quality assurance, but like they have a really good. I don't get a bunch of broken components. I don't get a bunch of missing things. Generally speaking, they have a really good delivery. And so they've been great partners. So it's important because you can have a great idea and then, pick the wrong partner to make it, or find out you didn't know the difference between the different paper types. I had this really, I mean, this is sort of, a little off topic, but I wanted to make the herbaceous sprouts dice, and I had seen dice like it, and I didn't know how to make it. I never, like, almost everything that we make, I've never made before, right? Like, so, I mean, maybe not so much now, but originally, right? And I was like, I have no idea to make these, what process, what material. And I was at a trade show, and I knew a guy at, what company was he working for? I don't remember what company it was. Oh, USAopoly. And they do a lot of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, do you have any idea, like, how to make these or where to get them? I got this from this other guy over here at this game. Like, but like, have you ever seen this? Because I had worked with him, and he was like, I have no idea, but let me connect you with Joe over here. And his name wasn't Joe, but Joe. It was like the 30-year vet who, like, is interfaces with all their manufacturing, runs all their products, and, like, just that time you actually meet an expert in their field, right? And, like, he's like, well, that is this. It's done in these 3 ways. It has these different qualities. However, you can do it here, but if you're going to manufacture this, watch out for that region. Like, super, like, whoa, man. But
It's like, I was just trying to find out if it was plastic or if it was
no, it was great, and you learn, right? And so I think it's part of the fun I get to have as we're trying to figure out how to make these games.
Yeah, and I mean, like, even your design, I mean, most punch boards you get are just white, but it's this extra little artwork when you open that box the first time that just kind of jump out at you, and you feel like you're getting that quality production. Just down to the box isn't just a hollow box, you have it divided into sections, holds those tiles. So as much as there's a lot in the box, hard to get it in from a just storage standpoint, it is organized and makes sense. So like that, that the thought went into this game to make it the best experience for the player.
Yeah, and what I can also say, for those designers and people thinking about replayability or just design in general, like, one of the most powerful things you can do, like, if you're going to make games, design games, play games, and it's not just about playing the mechanics and understanding that, but like, when I haven't been to a con in a while, but like going to cons and playing games, you just look at what people are doing. You just open up. I like, a big part of what I would do at a con, separate from playing games, is like literally just walk like in a snake around every table and be like, oh, look at that. Look at how they're balancing that. Oh, that's a really cool insert. Oh, they have a design on their punch out that's like painted, oh, there's no, when you pay for a punch out, you're paying when you it's called 4C, but it's the 4-color print where you get the like whatever colors. But like you're not paying per square inch of art, you're paying per range of colors, right? So once you've said it's full color punch board, there's no reason you can't have color between the punch outs, right? Like, your printer doesn't care. You're not getting charged more or less. You just have to sort of be like, oh, it looks pretty cool when you have art on it. Oh, that's
Right.
cool. Or that's, or and so, by seeing what other people are doing, you get that, like, oh, I like that solution. I'm going to try that. Or I wonder how expensive it is. And if you try to, engage with the community on Facebook, on Twitter or wherever, Instagram, and you're like talking to people and sharing, and everyone's super helpful. So, like, James Hudson, Tidal Blades, inside there, they have these 2 resources. One's a shell and one's an orange. The shell is like a hard, typical plastic, but the orange is like a rubbery, more like a, I don't know, like a pellet, like a BB gun, like it's not the same hard. And like, I remember picking them up and I'm like, this is awesome. I picked this one up and it's not like a shell, but it feels like it's a hard thing. And this one feels like a soft thing. And so, like, then you reach out and you're like, hey, what'd you do there? What was this material? What was that material? And he'll tell you, anyone will tell you. No one really, well, there's probably some people, but the majority of people are really happy to be like, this is what I did. This is what material it was. This is how I figured out how to do it. And I think that's one of the pleasures about making board games. Professionally, I make video games, and from my experience, because you're just much more. It's less typical for people to tell you how they did this cool thing, and like it doesn't. It just, you don't have that level of like, oh yeah, whatever. Here's this awesome solution to that problem. You just take it, have fun with it.
Right.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's a good point. Like, I'm just thinking of what Lisa went back to. It's just like, it's almost like a sense of arrival. I'm in marketing, so it's a sense of arrival when you come to a place, when you have a punch board like this, or even Sunset Over Waters. I move around here, like the postcard.
Oh, that was
you
fun,
don't
yeah.
need to do that, but it gives you just that extra added sense.
It is, and I've always been curious, like how many of those postcards actually have been sent off to other folks. You can't track that like you can ad clicks, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that is something that Kickstarter has been a driver at. Like, I think, stretch goals, which isn't necessarily everyone's favorite thing, and they can be and go over the top, but it forces you and because I've done a lot of Kickstarters, right? It forces you to try to understand what people like, what people respond to. Oh, people really care about card thickness. They care about this thing. They care about having an insert. They care about this. They care, what's your solution for people who wants to sleeve their cards, right? And you start to appreciate that perspective, and then it has this sort of built-in mechanism to go over the top. It's one of those things where my original edition of Liftoff was actually pretty well executed, had some gorgeous meeples, but because it was underwater, it was just way too expensive for the price point. So like, it was sort of like a bad start to making board games. I'm very happy with the game. But interestingly, when I came back to it 5 years later and we made the limited edition, not limited, but deluxe edition, that one is like easily the highest production value thing Pencilverse Games has done. But it's actually cheaper than the original. And so in some ways you learn how to do things, you learn how to do your print run, how to work your partners, and you can still, like, a big difference was just the 5 years of experience I had between doing the two of them, really, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. I mean, in most industries, the more experience you have, you understand the value of some things and the trade-offs.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing. Like, we've kind of touched on
quite a bit.
Pretty much, like, from design to production.
Yeah, we rolled all around, but that's part of the fun.
Hey, if you're okay with it, we might just crop certain sections out and maybe do just a little section on like actual game production, because that was really cool.
Yeah,
interesting information.
Yeah, whatever works, right? So those were the ones you're most familiar with, Herbaceous, Sunset of Water, and Tori?
Yes. So we've been really enjoying them. I mean, Tori, we love Japanese culture, so everything about this game, I think, is right on our hit list. Like, we love the puzzle, we love the tangible pieces. I mean, you're right. Points, you could have just a score chart or a tally or a cube that moves around the board, but those individual pieces and the care that went into developing that artwork, for us ourselves, that is attractive to us and makes us take that second look of a game.
Yeah,
I think game mechanics alone, in today's day and age, like you said, with Kickstarter, they don't necessarily sell your game.
Yeah.
But it's this production level, and then we love the game mechanics.
Yeah, and I'm certainly a huge fan of the 100 Tori. It's been interesting to see some of those challenges. So you should certainly, it's a ways away, but I think you'll obviously get a kick out of Diverging Paths. It really does create all sorts of new game fun you can have with Tori. If you have a chance, Skull, you might. Do you two play Santorini and enjoy playing Santorini?
So Santorini, not so much, but we do play head to head with like Too Many Bones or Cloud Spire, or so we do like head to head. I just find Santorini a little bit. If you,
Oh no,
it can just be
no.
a taking
She
back and
just
forth.
beats me too much, and
I see.
she's
Well,
just trying to be nice. I can't wrap my head around the
He
yeah.
does. Yeah, I beat him too quickly, and then he gets mad and doesn't want to play it anymore.
Yeah,
That's pretty much it.
Skull. You might do better in Skull Hollow. Skull Hollow isn't. Santorini is just a dressed up abstract strategy game for two
Yes.
players. Skull Hollow is a little bit more of a has a little bit more variability in card play. So it's not, you can't just like Santorini. You can just crush the other opponent.
Well, you just box them in completely.
Yeah,
box them out.
Abstract is not.
But the other fun thing that you'll probably get a kick out of, so with Diverging Paths, have you ever heard of a game called Hanafuda by any chance? If you hadn't, it's not a surprise.
No.
So it's actually the name. It's a type of deck. They're these Japanese cards that you use to play different games like koi. They're like poker cards.
Okay.
But what Yakuza used in Japan in the Edo period and stuff. So they're historic Japanese play cards. They're actually the type of cards that Nintendo first made. So Nintendo, before they made video games, made cards.
Made cards, yes.
Vincent Dutrait and I are making a illustrated version of it.
Okay.
Because for no good reason, but we're doing it, and it's a really fun 2-player game. So that's another one that you'll probably enjoy. Proliferous, which is live on Kickstarter now.
Yes.
Not quite, it's a little ways away, but it has a really good playing with 2 players on that's a lot of fun. The Whatnot Cabinet 2 players, super fun and zippy, way lighter than Tori. So you might get a kick out of those. But it's fun to be able to make these projects and work with these teams, right? So it's been a blast to be able to make these games.
So you said your full-time or your main job is doing video game design. So what made you get into board games, or have you always liked board games as well?
So my entire career has sort of been video games or sometimes technology companies, but I really wasn't. As a kid, I played lots of board games, but we're talking Risk, Monopoly, like Clue, like standard grow up playing board games. But when I started working in a company called Mind Control Software, making video games, that's when I was introduced to like very typical. Oh, here's Catan, Ticket to Ride, Small World, like the standard gateway stuff. And I was playing it, but I wasn't in the space. And then actually, an art director at that company, Thomas Denmark, had done Dungeoneer, but was also working on Murder of Crows, which is a game he got stuck and he needed some design help on, and I co-designed it with him, and that was published by Atlas Games. But that was sort of all I did. It wasn't until I was working for Blue Fang Games, the maker of Zoo Tycoon, and it's like a long story, but they actually went out of business. And we had games on Facebook at the time, and when we turned that off, it's gone, right? And you don't think of it necessarily, but video games are temporal in that the device changes, the iOS changes. Sure, you can get an old Nintendo and figure out how to play a game on it, but they're emulators are changing that a little, I guess. But just generally speaking, these online games, if they get shut down, they're gone.
Yeah. Right.
And it had been on the back of essentially 2 games or 3 games I'd worked on over for the last 3 or 4 years, they just evaporated, right? And it's not like I can't remember them, but in doing that, I just was I had nothing to do. I was looking for work. But I was sort of interested in the idea of making a game because it's physical, right? And like the beauty of a board game is you can always take it off the shelf and it will always work. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to have an operating system or an installation. And so when I built the liftoff prototypes, we carved out of masonite. They were like serious. I still have them. But actually, I wasn't doing a publisher. I shipped it off to some publishers to check out and play, and everyone passed. I got close with one, but Queen Games almost did it. But so everyone passed. And I was just doing video games, and then I was playing in a local group board games, and my wife was like, hey, like next time we go, why don't you bring Liftoff? And I was like, sure. You can show them the game I made instead of the games, but we played. And at the time, some of the people in that group had run Kickstarters or like were into that. And basically we're like, well, why don't you run a Kickstarter? What's a Kickstarter? Is that what, and so, one thing leads to another. But why I've continued to do it is making video games is really complicated. It takes a lot of people. I mean, I work on games with teams of 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 people, whatever, really big groups. And, you always have tech issues and bugs and this and that, and it's not what you see is what you get, WYSIWYG. So like the beauty of in one way, the beauty of a board game is you don't need an engineer, right? You can sort of like have one person and an artist and you put it together. And so it's really for me been it's like just the fun part of the job.
Right.
And without all the other management and all that. So it's been a nice outlet to be creative. And it also isn't, video games cost a lot of money to make, so they have to make a lot of money. Mm-hmm. And so because they have to make a lot of money, you have to always know how you're going to make your money. Like right. They're products that are people being funded. Whereas a board game, this Hanafuda deck with Vincent, we're not going to make any money, but we're going to make this cool thing. And that it was fun making it. So like, whatever, it's that kind of thing.